And new at 9, a lawsuit will be filed today in the crash that killed a mother and daughter last August and got a Memphis police officer fired last week.
Officer Alex Beard was let go for breaking departmental rules. He was speeding to a police call, but without his emergency lights or sirens when he slammed into another car. Beard, however, is not the one being named in the lawsuit. Attorney Thomas Greer with Bailey & Greer is here to explain. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you.
Who are you suing, and why isn't the officer? Because I think probably most people would say the officer would be the one named.
Well, Mary Beth, the way it works in Tennessee is when a governmental employee causes an accident like this, the employee himself is immune from suit. So the proper person that, the proper entity that gets sued is the city. The City of Memphis is the only entity that a lawsuit can be brought against in this case, and they're responsible for paying the damages.
Have you gotten a response from the City of Memphis so far in this case, and what do you expect?
Well, the lawsuit is just filed this morning. There have been reports in the media that the city is willing to accept responsibility for the lawsuit, but it's just filed, and we'll have to serve the papers on the city to ultimately find out what their response is going to be to the suit.
And the challenging thing to everyone out there on the couch watching is that when you say the city is responsible or the entity is responsible for the damages may not be completely covered because of what?
Well, that's correct. Anytime a lawsuit is brought against a governmental entity, it's brought under the Tennessee Governmental Tort Liability Act. And under that act, there are caps on how much a city has to pay. For any one specific act, like this crash, the total amount of money that the city has to pay is $700,000.
Okay.
In this case, you have two individuals who were killed, and you have a gentleman named Michael Ross who was in the hospital for 3 or 4 months who has $1 million in medical bills.
So he's already spent more or will spend more than he could ever get.
So obviously we're also talking about the loss of life. We're talking about a party injured. I take it this amount is unreasonable, you think?
Well, of course it is. Think about this, Alex. Mr. Ross was doing the right thing. He's following all the rules. He gets in a horrible crash caused by someone else. His medical bills are $1 million, and the most he can possibly collect under any scenario is $300,000, leaving him with owing the balance of that. Now, that's not fair. If this crash was caused by some other individual in the community or a company, they would be held responsible for the full amount of the medical bills. But in our state, as it stands right now, cities are not held fully accountable.
Do you think citizens understand this fully? Because, you know, when you hear the incredible stories, let's go back a few years, the hot McDonald's coffee story with the incredible, result of that, people tend to think, oh, those lawyers.
Right.
If citizens break it down and hear this kind of story, I mean, are they surprised?
Well, I think they are. And certainly this is not something that is unique, or this happens all the time. There was a bus crash that happened in Upper East Tennessee a few months ago where dozens of students were killed, and can you injured. And can you imagine a scenario where it could be much worse than this, and people are left with a paltry amount to pay for medical bills in the past and in the future?
So if cities, towns, or entities, Thomas, are not fully held responsible, do you see the Tennessee legislature perhaps making any changes or looking into this?
I hope they would, but the climate right now, I doubt that very seriously. And I think really what this law does is it makes our citizens less safe. If you're not going to hold cities accountable for their conduct, then they're not going to be responsible for proper training, hiring, things like that.
There's no incentive.
It places our citizens at risk, in my opinion.
So should people call their state lawmaker? Always.
We live in a democratic society, and you have phone numbers to your legislatures. Look them up online and tell them that you don't like this law and have them raise the caps.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thomas, thank you very much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
It wakes you up.